if the Indiana Hoosiers can get the Washington State transfer Myles Rice, we can compete for the Big Ten next season.
You are Locked On Hoosiers, your daily podcast on the Indiana Hoosiers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome in. It is the Locked On Hoosiers podcast. I'm your man, Jacob Goins. I appreciate you being here, making this your first listen each and every day. Thank you so much to all the everydayers, those of you that are coming back each and every day, making this a part of your routine, and of course, making this your first listen each and every day. If you're on the YouTube platform, right, thank you so much for subscribing to the channel, liking the video. If you haven't done those things, be sure you do it. We're surging towards 2,100, so thank you so much. Any of you on the audio versions as well, I appreciate you. Make sure you subscribe if it's an option there, and also hit that bell notification so you never miss a new episode. Today's episode of Locked On Hoosiers is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. New customers join today, and you'll get $200 in bonus bets if your first bet of $5 or more wins. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. Well, the transfer portal's been active. It's been crazy, and the Hoosiers continue to reach out to a ton of different guys. They haven't really had a whole lot of success, but I think that could change, and it's in the form of Myles Rice, the Washington State transfer. And I'm just going to say it right here. If we land him, which we need to go get him, if we get him, we can compete for the Big Ten championship next year. I think this guy's that good. I really do. And I think he would mean that much to this Indiana basketball team. You look at this guy, he averaged 15 points a game. He was all Pac-12 first team in the Pac-12 last season in 2023 and 2024. This guy's a baller, man. He was the Pac-12 freshman of the year because his first two seasons he didn't play. He was a redshirt. And then the guy battled cancer. Like, this guy can do it all. And thank the Lord that he was able to beat it and kind of get through all of that. And that's going to play into his story, right, as he continues to get better as a player. But 15 points a game, 4 assists, 3 rebounds, and 1.5 steals per game last season. Shot 44% from the field, 27.5 from 3. So that's not the most attractive number. But 81% at the free throw line. So the two shooting numbers that you like, 44% from the floor and 81% from the free throw line. And that 44% is being bogged down by a 27.5% from behind the arc. So from 2-point land, he's even better. All of that being said, I think this guy fits. And that's sort of the conversation we've been having about a lot of these guys from the transfer portal is they just fit. They fit what we're trying to do. You watch how this guy plays. He just does it all. He can create his own shot. He can handle the basketball. He's 6'2". He's the guard that we're looking for. He can orchestrate the offense. And I think that's what Indiana needs. That's what we need right now at the guard spot is guys, not just one, not just two, numerous that can come in and run the offense because you still have Malik Reneau down low. You still have Mackenzie Mbako who can be down low or step out and shoot threes. So you don't need a point guard to come in and drop 20 points a game. He has that capability. He did it 6 times last year, but you don't need that from him each and every night. You need a guy that's going to come in and say, okay, we're running this play. I need to make sure we have this guy set. And if I come off of this screen, I know he's going to be open over here. And if he's not, I'm going to throw it up for the lob. And if nobody picks me up, I'm going to lay it in the basket, right? You need that type of guy to run your team and be the floor general. And I think that's what Myles Rice can be on top of all the other things that he does really well, right? We talked about his stats. He was really, really good this season. And Washington State was good this season. He led them to a 25-10 record, took them to the NCAA tournament, and got them a win in the NCAA tournament. Sounds good to me. We don't have anybody right now that can do that for us other than maybe Trey Galloway that's been around it and been in that situation. So we have a lot of fresh guys that just haven't done that yet. and Myles Rice has. And I think if he comes in with the additions we're bringing in, plus some more that I think we could get, I think we're good enough talent-wise to compete for the Big Ten. I'm not saying that because I want it. I'm saying that because I believe it. I really do. Where the talent's going to be there, the question then becomes the same way it was this past season. Can Mike Woodson coach? Can he get them better? Can he make them better? Can he get them where they need to be? That's the major question. But that's a conversation for way down the road. Right now, we're worried about Myles Rice and where he's going to go. It's basically, from what I'm hearing and what I've been told and what I can see, it's down to two schools. It's down to Indiana and it's down to Auburn. That's the two that is in on him, want him, and I'm hearing good things. I'm hearing some good things here. And not that means a whole lot until he officially commits and puts pen to paper, wherever the case may be, right? Wherever that location is. But I'm feeling pretty good about it. And I'm hoping that this works out, because I think Indiana has a lot to offer him. Hey, come in and be the guy. You're it. You're our point guard. You're going to be one of our main guards. You can be that guy. And for a guy that was not recruited out of high school very much as a 3-star, and I mentioned, again, he has overcome a form of cancer called Hodgkin's lymphoma. That's unbelievable, man. That's unbelievable that he's overcome all of that. And here he is, Pac-12 Freshman of the Year, all Pac-12 player, took him to the NCAA tournament, took Washington State to the NCAA tournament, and then got them a win in March as well. That's big-time stuff. And a guy that Indiana has to have. You got to go get this guy, especially if he's this interested in being in Bloomington. Again, I think it's down to us, and I think it's down to Auburn, and I'm feeling good about where Indiana stands on this. If you get him, good things will happen. I think we'll all feel better about this roster. Not that he is the one and alone saving grace, but I think he's good enough to take us to the next level, to take us to that next step where we were hovering around the middle of the conference this past year. I think Myles Rice takes you to a top 4, top 3 in competing for the Big Ten. Start adding in some new guys as well with your recruit coming in of Bryson Tucker. Yeah, and the guys you're bringing back. Okay, now we're starting to talk a little bit, and that's exciting. That's exciting for me, and I think it's exciting for you as well. Well, coming up on Locked On Hoosiers, outside of Myles Rice, what else will it take for this team to compete in the Big Ten? I'm talking about how we can do it. What's it going to take? We'll talk about that coming up in just a second on Locked On Hoosiers. Today's episode of Locked On Hoosiers is brought to you by FanDuel. The sports calendar is loaded right now, and the FanDuel is making it even more exciting to get in on the action, because right now new customers get $200 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $200 if you can use to bet on the Final Four, MLB, NBA, NHL, the playoffs coming up, and so much more. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and make your first bet a big win. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Welcome back into Locked On Hoosiers. Appreciate you being here, making this your first listen each and every day. Your go-to spot for all things Indiana athletics. We are free and available wherever you get your podcast. Never have to pay for it every single day. I've been talking a lot about the Hoosiers and what they can do to compete in the Big Ten. I think Myles Rice is a big part of that. I think your Bryson Tucker commit is a big part of that. And I think your guys coming back are a big part of that as well. And so we start asking these hypothetical questions. Okay, what does it take, right? What's it going to take for Indiana to move up and take that next step and truly compete for the Big Ten? Well, I think it has a lot to do with the coaching staff, something we talked about previous segment, where Mike Woodson has to get the best out of his players. And for most of the season last year, I just don't think that happened. I know it didn't happen, because you'd have times where, yeah, Khalil Ware and Malik Reneau would have phenomenal games, but even that wasn't enough. you weren't getting the best out of Mackenzie Mbako every single night, and especially early on. You were not getting the best version of Trey Galloway outside of the Kansas game, and even that wasn't enough. You were not getting the best out of your players, and that's an issue. You start bringing in some serious talent through the portal and through high school recruiting, you better be able to train them and teach them and make them better, because they're going to leave if you don't. And I've told you this, they're going to drag you all over town, and they're going to make sure everybody knows that you are not a place that you should go because you can't get better here. I don't believe that. I'm just saying that's how this whole thing works. Everybody talks. That's how the portal works. That's how high school recruiting works. And so for us to be competitive next season, Malik Reneau has to take that next step. He has to be your grounded go-to type of guy, sort of like Khalil Ware was this year, where he's going to have to come into every game. He's going to know, okay, I've got to go get 15 and 10 because I think he's that good. I think he has that capability. He just has to go and do it. So he has to come in and know, I need 15 points and 10 rebounds. I'm going to get fouled. I need to make my free throws, and I've got to be the lockdown defender in the paint, and I've got to do it without fouling, right? If he can do that, I think Indiana's going to be in a really good spot here. If he can do that, we'll be in a good spot. But he's going to have to be your all Big Ten type of player down low on both ends of the floor. Other than him, I think Mackenzie Mbako has to take that next step, and I think he will. I have a good feeling about Mbako. I think he's going to continue to get better and better and better, and I'm so glad that he's coming back to Indiana because he makes us so much better, and I would have been really upset to watch him go play somewhere else because he's going to be that good. He's going to take that next step and be, I don't know if elite is the right word, but he's going to be a difference maker. And I'm glad it's going to be here in Bloomington and not somewhere else in case we have to play him, right? Right. I'm excited for what he gets to do, but I think he is a crucial factor. He's got to be your shooter. He's got to be your almost your X factor. It's like, oh crap, we forgot about him, right? That's what you have to get out of him. And kind of going through the returners right now, Trey Galloway. Trey Galloway has a unique position next year. Depending on how the portal works out, right? Depending on if Myles Rice does come in and if you go and get some other guys, right? We've talked about him over the last few days. His role could be really intriguing to me because you trust him, right? He's been here long enough. You know what he is. Trey Galloway is Trey Galloway. He's not getting any better, but he's still a solid piece for you. He's reliable. He's trustworthy. Free throw shooting, Ball handling, good. Decision-making, good. Shooting has potential to get back to being good. So what is his role going to be next season? We may do a whole episode on this where what is his role next season? I don't think we know that right now, but it's going to be important, and I guarantee you Mike Woodson's going to rely on him. I guarantee his name and number are going to be called time and time again to help this Hoosiers team win some basketball games next season because that's what he's been doing his entire career, and that's what we want from him because he's that good. He's going to bring that ultra senior leadership, right, playing for his 17th season of college basketball, and he's going to be that guy in the locker room, which is really exciting. Because right now, you have a lot of young guys. You could bring in some through the portal, and we've had those where they have 1 or 2 years of eligibility, so they've played some college ball before. But look, Galloway's been in college for a long time, and he's been at Bloomington for a long time. That's a great guy to have. It's almost like having an extra coach, which is major advantage for you. Not only is he going to play and make the right plays for you, but he can help teach. He can help develop young guys. He can be the extra coach on the floor, basically. And I think that's going to be Trey Galloway's role. And that's a big factor for this Indiana team. If they want to start winning the games they're supposed to and possibly beating some teams that they're not supposed to. And I know it sucks that we're watching Purdue play in the Final Four. I get it. But I think we can compete with them. I think we can beat them. We need to be better than them. And we're not there right now. But guys like Trey Galloway and Malik Reneau and Mackenzie Mbako can get us back there next season. Then you start talking about what you're bringing in. And those guys just have to find their role. And that's interesting with this team because we just don't know. We don't know what everybody looks like. We don't know what the team looks like because you've still got X number of roster spots to fill. But Mike Woodson's going to have this massive puzzle with all these pieces everywhere, and he's going to have to start putting them together somehow. And the tricky thing is, it can go together multiple different ways. It just depends on which way is the best. And which way is the best for that night. It may depend on who your opponent is. And while I'm not a huge fan of changing up the lineup a ton once you get to conference play, maybe that's what you have to do. I don't know. But I do think you've got to get some support from the bench. We can't play another season with 5 players. You just can't do it. I mean, it's not feasible to play with just 5. You've got to have bench players. I'm not saying you got to have 5 extra ones down there, right, to go and have a platoon system or whatever, but you've got to have some support on the bench. And maybe that's what you get out of the transfer portal. And that may be what Mike Woodson has to offer is say, look, you're going to come in, you're going to be a major key role off the bench, maybe a 6th man, 7th man, whatever. But when tournament time comes, and I believe we make the tournament next year, you're going to be a part of the rotation. You're going to be a major role and have a major role on this team to get to the postseason and try to compete for the Big Ten championship and get to the NCAA tournament. All of those things have to start happening right now. Those are April conversations and April problems. So that way you're not dealing with this full on in November and December. And if you can get in front of these, if you can do the things you're supposed to do, I believe that Indiana, us, the Hoosiers, can compete for the Big Ten championship. It's going to take a lot. It is. But just like this past year, this upcoming year, the talent will be there. It will. The talent will be there. It just depends on if it comes together and if Mike Woodson and the staff are able to put it together and coach the right way and get this team to the mountaintop. And I think that's all what we're asking. Can he do it? He's getting one more season. He's getting another chance. It's now or never. It's now or never for the Hoosiers and Mike Woodson. If he can't do it now, can he ever do it? Coming up on Locked On Hoosiers, final segment, we'll take a look at the transfer portal some more. New names are popping up, new names that Indiana is reaching out to, kind of talk about what we've seen so far and what could be coming on the horizon in the transfer portal. We'll talk about all that coming up in our final segment on Locked On Hoosiers. Today's episode of Locked On Hoosiers is brought to you by Amazon Fire TV. Fire TV is your destination for sports, from live games to highlights to in-depth analysis. Look, I watch all my sporting events on my 65-inch flat screen Amazon Fire TV. I plan on watching the Final Four on it. I'm going to watch the Masters next week, and I'm having a whole watch party for it, and we're all watching it on my Amazon Fire TV. Whether it's opening weekend for anything, or baseball season, or the playoffs coming up, or hey, the Masters, right? The Final Four, you're going to want to have a Fire TV. Fire TV recently created Fire TV channels, and these are really, really cool. Basically, they're just unique individual channels, just like you'd find on the TV guide, except they're centered on what you want it to be. For sports teams, all of our Locked On shows, NBA, MLB, plus you've got news, entertainment, gaming, cooking videos, whatever you want. They're literally Fire TV channels focused on exactly what you want them to be. Check out Fire TV channels on Fire TV and Alexa devices. If you haven't checked out Fire TV channels, you should. To learn more, visit www.amazon.com/LockedOnFireTV. Final segment here on Locked On Hoosiers. Appreciate you being here, making this your first listen each and every day. And I appreciate all the everydayers who come back each and every day. Make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel on YouTube, turn on notifications if you're on the audio platforms as well. More portal updates, man. It's kind of crazy. It seems like it's not possible to have all these different names just showing up that Indiana's reaching out to. But yet, here we are. with more and more names. You've got the St. Louis transfer, Gibson Jimerson. You have the Drexel transfer, Amari Williams, who is planning on visiting Indiana. And this one's a big one. This is a big, big deal. Indiana, and reading this right here, Indiana is scheduled to host a visit for Drexel center Amari Williams, a 3-time Colonial Athletic Association Defensive Player of the Year. Okay, the visit is coming up on April 19th and 20th, so coming up in about 3 weeks after the dead period. 6'3", or excuse me, he's not 6'3". Apologies, that's a different guy. He's coming in. He's 6'10". That's a little bit of a difference. 6'10", 265-pound center with just the 1 year of eligibility remaining. Yeah, that's pretty impressive. Blocked 181 shots. Yeah, that's pretty good in his career. That's almost 2 per game, according to the article. 6'10" and 265. That's a unit, man. That is a grown man in the paint. And he averaged 12 points per game, 8 rebounds, and like I said, almost 2 blocks per game, and starting in 32 games last year. So that's unbelievable. Is he just the biggest scoring threat in the world? No, probably not. But he is a presence down low, something I've been screaming from the mountaintops that we have to go and find. Maybe he's it. Maybe Amari Williams is that guy, because he is almost a double-double machine, almost what's my term? A walking double-double, right? He could be that guy. And I know we were talking about Malik Reneau kind of being your anchor in a good way, right? The guy that keeps you grounded, the guy that you go to time and time again, especially on the offensive end. But if you bring in a guy like Williams, he can kind of be your defensive anchor. He can be the guy you rely on the defensive side to go up against the Zach Edey's of the world that you're going to run into time and time again. And so you have to find somebody like this. And if Indiana doesn't, I think we could be in trouble because of the concern with Malik Reneau and his foul trouble and not having a whole lot of help around him, behind him, whatever. This guy could change that. This guy could fix that problem right now. 6'10", 265. That's awesome, right? He's going to come in, and he's one of those guys, and I was watching some film. He's one of those guys where you see the guards turn the corner and get in the lane and change their mind because he's there. The Khalil Ware type player, the Zach Edey type player, where it's like, oh crap, here he is. Let's get out and do something else. That's not going to work. He has that type of presence because of his shot blocking ability. You can see it in the stats, and you can see it in the film. He is a menace in the paint, and that's exactly what we need. So I'm excited about him. Keep your eye out. He'll be on a visit coming up in just a few weeks. Keep your eye out for him, Amari Williams. And then Gibson Jimerson, a guy that I mentioned earlier as well, 40% three-point shooter across his career. He is a St. Louis transfer, and according to sources, Indiana has reached out here. He's also heard from West Virginia, Indiana, of course, Memphis, Clemson, Texas A&M, UCLA, Washington, and Pittsburgh. 6'5", 215-pound guard, so he fits the taller guard narrative that we've discussed. All 5 years at St. Louis, which is pretty crazy. So he's one of those super seniors that we see very commonly right now in college basketball. Last season, averaged 16 points, just the 3 rebounds, 2 assists, but shot 40% from the field and 36% from 3 last season and 86% from the free throw line. So this is another shooter that we're going after, another guy that can knock it down when you have to, a guy that you can rely on outside of McKenzie and Baco. You've got to go find him. I know you're bringing in Bryson Tucker, who shooting is it's not the best. I think it'll get there. But this guy in Jimerson, you bring him in, he's got one job. Hey, you stand out there, you move around the arc, and when we pass it to you, you better shoot and you better knock it down. And I think that's probably what his recruiting pitch would be from schools like us, like Indiana. It's like, look, dude, you've got 1 more year of college basketball. You've played at St. Louis your whole career. Come play big boy ball and come knock down some big-time shots. And I think that's a possibility. Indiana reached out. We'll see how this kind of develops here. And I mean, look, I'm watching some of these films and some of these videos as we speak right now, and the shooting stroke is just unbelievable. Just doesn't need much time. When it gets into his hands, it just comes off so smooth. And yeah, this guy is one that you would love to have on your team, man. Just bam, knocks it down each and every time. And again, I think that's what we need. We need those knockdown shooters. We haven't had them, and we're starting to bring them in. We're starting to reach out to them. And I know I've said this a lot, and I'm going to say it again as we wrap up. We've reached out to a lot of guys in the portal, and we're bringing in a lot of guys on these visits. And I know nothing has stuck to the wall yet. Just hold on. Just hang on. We're going to get there, right? I feel really good about Myles Rice. I think some of these other guys are going to come on their visits and start feeling good about those as well. Just stick with us. Stick with this staff. Stick with Mike Woodson. They're going to get some transfer commits. They're going to do it. They're not going to strike out like they did in high school recruiting until Bryson Tucker saved them at the bell. We are going to get players. We just got to find the right ones. And we got some roster spots to fill. In Indiana, it's not by a lack of effort, I'll tell you that. And they're going to hit on some. Just be patient, stick with us, and it's going to happen. That's going to do it for today's episode of Locked On Hoosiers. Appreciate you being here, man. This was a great episode. A lot of fun. Always fun getting to talk Indiana basketball and Indiana athletics with you. If you've made it this far, like the video. Helps it get around. Share it with your family and friends. Make sure you hit the subscribe button as well. We're pushing towards 2,100. Thank you so much for that. It's been awesome so far. Can't wait to see what we do in the future. Also on the audio version, okay? If you can subscribe there, do it. If you can turn on notifications, do it. That way you never miss an episode of Locked On Hoosiers. We'll be back tomorrow for a Friday edition. Get into the weekend. Have a little Final Four talk as well. I know we're not in it, and I know we're not excited about the teams that are, but we'll talk about it anyway. At least give you my picks for the Final Four. And hey, maybe we'll have some more portal updates by tomorrow. I guess we'll have to see. Until next time, Hoosier fans, stay safe, and I'll talk to you later.